بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. And we are continuing from where we left off yesterday. So we were just talking about the idea that he mentioned about emphasis with other than inna, you know like the same concept applies for other than inna. It's not just inna. You have lam at-tawkid, same thing. And he mentioned also the idea that you can have lam al-muwatti'a in the beginning, the lam that comes with la'in, and then you can have also emphasis on the jawab like that. So every ayah that has emphasis the emphasis is appropriate for that ayah, number one, and the number of emphasis is also appropriate for that context that is being described. That's the whole point that he's trying to say. In other words, he's saying every single style that is expressed in the Quran is appropriately expressed within the context, according to what the context necessitates and what the context deserves. So you just don't have tawkid for the sake of tawkid. You don't have one tawkid or two tawkids for the sake of having tawkid. It's not like when you and I speak. When we speak, sometimes we just use emphasis here and there, and sometimes we're not intending to emphasize, or sometimes we don't use any emphasis and we intend to emphasize. So what he's saying is that the Quran is very purposeful, very specific, and very intentional about how it uses these different styles and expressions. All right. So who wants to participate? We can start. All right. So
I
we have
can.
Fauzia, we have Saiman, okay, Saima. All right. So Saima, since you're already unmute, you can begin, and then we'll go to Fauzia, and then Saima, the other Saima.
All right.
Mm.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. You can help me with the meanings. I'll do my best.
Okay.
فلو نظرت إلى التوكيد في القرآن ولوجد ولوجدته لوحة فنية عالية متناسقة على سعة التوكيد واختلاف المؤكدات وتنوعها.
على اختلاف المؤكدات.
مؤكدات. Okay, I wrote مؤكدات. Okay.
All right. Okay.
So if you look or pay attention to the emphasis in Quran, you will find it you will find it as a paint? No, or you'll find it as a well proportional, elevated, artistic painting. Oh, this was hard to translate. The ability of the expression and the differences or disagreement of, I don't know, and something diverse. I could not fit it in. I know the meanings, maybe. Tawqid is expression, ikhtilaf is disagreement or difference, muakkidat is, and what I could find was confirmation or certainty, and tawanniha was variety or diversity.
Okay, so let's figure it out. So فلو نظرت إلى التوكيد في القرآن لوجدته لوحة فنية عالية متناسقة على سعة التوكيد واختلاف المؤكدات وتنوعها. Let me put that there. Okay. So if you were to look at tawkid, for example, in the Quran, what would you find if you were to look at tawkid in the Quran? لوجدته, you would find, because again, this is shart and then the jawabu shart. So you would find it لوحة فنية عالية متناسقة. You would find it a well-arranged, elevated, statistic picture, or whatever. You'd find it all these things, and we already discussed this came before وجد plus all this stuff. So these are hals. How would you find them? You would find them like this. على سعة التوكيد. You would also find it on an abundance of توكيد. So سعة is abundance, is richness, is living in good. If somebody was living على سعة, like they were living in a lavish, in a well environment, if you will, something like that, comfort. Yeah, so على سعة, abundance, we can say. So on abundance of التوكيد واختلاف المؤكدات, and different, a variety, I would say, like, I don't know, different stresses, وتنوعها, and diversity. Okay, so you'd find different توكيدs and a diversity of توكيدs. So that's what you just won't find inna everywhere. You would find inna, you would find lam, you would find توكيد المعنوي, you would find توكيد اللفظي, you would find نون الثقيلة, you would find different, a variety and a diversity of توكيدات. Okay, is that meaning clear? What is being said?
Can you please explain واختلاف المؤكدات و what is that word?
تنوعها. تنوع means diversity. Types. So نوع is a type.
تنوع it's a
تنوعها. تنوع يتنوع تنوع. This is a مصدر. تنوع. Like
okay.
تعلم يتعلم تعلم. تنوع.
Yeah, can you explain the meaning that it's on the abundance of tawqid and the difference in the stresses and the diversity? I didn't get this part.
So different stresses and a diverse, different and diverse stresses, if you will.
Different.
So you'd find that like it differs. It's not the same. It doesn't use the same توكيد.
Actually,
Yeah?
سعيها التوكيد is مضاف إليه, and this is معطوف, and this is معطوف on this توكيد, right? اختلاف. Can you hear me, Sister Ilham?
I will look at it as
maybe on
معطوف to
Saadi.
سعة, on an abundance of توكيد and an abundance of diversity of stresses and different, like an abundance of different stresses and diverse stresses. Like it's a weird sentence structure to translate, to be honest. So the
this is
way
واختلاف is yeah, sorry.
So the easiest way would be to translate this one as variety and then this one diversity, or yeah. But more or less it's kind of like the same thing. So واختلاف المؤكدات وتنوعها, and a variety of stresses and its diversity, and the diversity of, you're not getting it.
Sister Ilham, I just want to clarify for myself. This واختلاف is معطوف على ساعتي, all right? And this المؤكداتي is مضاف إليه واختلاف, and this is again معطوف تنوعها is again معطوف على مؤكدات, right?
على اختلافي. So
again,
this part is معطوف like that.
I was confused. I was taking this as the تنوعها as a معطوف على مؤكدات. And how would I know?
I don't know if you guys can still hear me. My internet is a bit choppy.
We can
hear you now.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. All right. I don't know what you said. Could you repeat what you said?
Yeah, I was asking you تنوعها is معطوف على اختلاف.
Mm-hmm.
And why not مؤكدات?
Because if you make it معطوف to مؤكدات, then it would be واختلاف المؤكدات واختلاف تنوعها. And then that doesn't make sense.
No, why would we use اختلاف again, Stella? We can
Because
just,
you're
it's
saying it's
معطوف
معطوف.
on مؤكدات.
Yeah. So if it is, how do you make it معطوف to المؤكدات?
I was just thinking because
Sister Ella,
Mm-hmm.
what I believe is this ha is itself going to muakkidat, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So how can it be matuf on the pronoun that is attached to it?
Yeah.
okay.
It cannot be.
Okay, that makes sense for me. Okay.
Okay. Good. Thank you guys, because today I'm not in my best form. So I will try my best and you guys chip in and help me out. Inshallah khair. Yeah.
And one
Okay.
thing more, can you help me translate this word mutanasib?
متناسق, was it appropriate? Or well arranged? I think it was well arranged. Well arranged or in harmony.
Okay.
Well arranged sounds good. Yeah.
And lawha is what? A painting?
Yeah, a picture or a painting.
Picture. Yeah. Okay. So if this is a picture, then Faniya, Aliya, Mutanasik, these are all the sifas of Loha, right?
وجدته لوحة. You can look at it that
Because
way, yes. Yes, you can look at it that way.
Describing the painting, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can look at it that way. Yeah. So yeah, it is describing. Yeah, so you would find it, yeah, a well arranged, elevated, artistic picture. This is
Still, whatever you said me, it will take maful bihi and
ahal.
Ahal, right?
Yeah.
So this lawhatan would be a maful bihi, and this
No.
all faniyatan al. This is hal. All these are hal, lawhatan, faniyatan, aliyatan, mutanafisan, and who is a maful bihi? Yes. Okay. But in that case, lawhatan is mawsuf, and then faniyatan, aliyatan, mutanasiqatan is the sifa of hal, lawhatan, right?
Yes. You can even look at this ala sa'a as sifa number 4. Yeah, you can look at it that way. Ala sa'ati tawkidi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can either look at it as muta'alliq or you can look at it as sifa.
And then, well, in that case, then because you told me ikhtilaf is a ma'tuf to sa'ati, then waqtilafi also would be included in that chain?
Yeah, because again, still, either way, there's harf ataf, so it's still included in that chain.
Salam, I'm so sorry to ask you again, but waqtilaf al-mu'akkid will be sifa number 5?
No. This
sifa
whole
will be
على
sifa.
سعة التوكيد واختلاف المؤكدات وتنوعها, that whole is one giant thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so either you look at it as jar majrur متعلق or you look at it as jar majrur صفة.
Okay, got it.
Okay? All right. Okay, so let's break it down. But I just wanted to make sure that the meaning is clear. Do we understand what is happening there? As far as the meaning is concerned, what he's trying to say. Okay, you will find it as a highly artistic painting which is well arranged by rich different patient dresses. Not understanding the patient here. Oh, okay. Variant. Okay, yeah, you can use variant. Yeah, variant stresses, like a variety of stresses. Yeah, so different. Yeah, so it's really hard to translate this part into English because of the structure in which he wrote it. So on an abundance of stresses, واختلاف المؤكدات, and a variety of stresses, and a diversity of stresses. So this is how you would find it. You'd find it an artistic, elevated, well-arranged picture on an abundance of stresses and a variety of stresses and a diversity of stresses. That's how you probably understand it. So that's what he's saying.
What is the difference between them, variety and different?
Yeah, there's not really much difference, honestly. Because
Okay.
you can say different. اختلاف literally means different. So different stresses, which means variety, really. Different is a variety. And different types of تنوعها.
I think he's using his own stressors to explain the stresses.
Yeah, he's adding emphasis.
It's like أكد معقدا معقدين معقدين structure. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So let's break it down. Anyway, فاستئنافية, studying a new sentence. لو أداة شرط, okay, and it comes mostly with the ماضي. So that's why we have نظرت, which is the فعل ماضي. If you were to look, so this is our فعل شرط. If you're to look at what, because نظر comes with إلى, نظرت إلى. If you're to look at إلى التوكيد في القرآن, so this whole part then becomes our شرط, our condition, right? So فلو نظرت إلى التوكيد في القرآن, this part is متعلق, pretty straightforward. What would you find? What would happen if you did that? لا, this lam comes with لو, so it signifies to you that the jawab begins here, all right? So this lam الجواب, tells you this is the jawab. لوجدته, you would find, so وجد is our فعل, أنت is our فاعل, هو is our مفعول به. And we said if وجد comes with the meaning of realistically finding something, then it takes on a مفعول به and a حال. But if it's like وجد, it's a mental exercise, if you will, then it takes two مفعول بهs. So in this case, you're actually physically finding something, I assume. So that's why we are saying لوحة would be the حال. Okay, so you'd find it, a picture, and then فنية, artistic, عالية, elevated or high, متناسقا, well arranged, متناسقة, because we are describing لوحة, that's why they all match like that. And then of course these ones are the sifas, like we said, they're describing لوحة. And then على سعة التوكيد, so على جار مجرور, حرف جار, and سعتي is the مجرور, سعة is مضاف, التوكيد is مضاف إليه, حرف عطف, واختلافي, وعلى سعة اختلافي, and an abundance of different مؤكدات, different stresses, وتنوعها, and a variety of stresses or different types of stresses. Okay, so على سعة التوكيد وعلى سعة اختلاف المؤكدات وتنوعها. Any questions? Okay, are we good? All right. Let's see. I think Fauzia, also you had your hand up. You can read this next portion.
Okay. وكل مثل ذلك عن الاستفهام. مثل ذلك عن الاستفهام. And say similar to that about questioning. So now I think he's starting a new section. فهو قد يستفهم. Is it hum or hum?
Him.
يستفهم.
استغفر يستغفر.
يستفهم مرة بالهمزة ومرة بهل. فهو مرة يقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هل أنبئكم بشر من ذلك مثوبة عند الله. Say, shall I inform you of those who deserve a worse punishment from Allah?
Yes, precisely. So, وقل مثل ذلك عن الاستفهام فهو قد يستفهم يستغفر فهو قد يستفهم مرة بالهمزة ومرة بهل. فهو مرة يقول قل هل أنبئكم بشر من ذلك مثوبة عند الله في سورة المائدة. Alright? Now let's come to this structure. قل is an amr, right? Is a فعل أمر. So he's saying, say similar to that about istifham. That would be the literal translation. But the understanding here, this phrase, قل مثل ذلك عن, this phrase here, is used when you have presented an idea, you have presented a suggestion, you have presented something, a rule, for example, a hukum, and then you say that same hukum, that same rule applies to a different thing. So instead of repeating everything that you just mentioned before, you just say وَقُلْ مِثْلُ ذَلِكَ عَنِ الْإِسْتِفْهَامِ. The same applies for istifham. That's how you translate this part. وَقُلْ مِثْلُ ذَلِكَ. Literally, it means say the same about istifham. Okay? Or say a similar thing about istifham. But what is this similar thing that we're saying? It's that whole idea that we just presented, the same applies to istifham. In other words, what is applying to istifham? The idea that al-istifham, just like tawkid, is used in the context in which is appropriate for it. Every single istifham, whether it is hal, whether it is ma, whether it is madha, whether it is man, that particular one is suitable for that context, and the context necessitates it. That's what he's meaning. So he gives an example and he says, فَهُوَ قَدْ يَسْتَفْهِمُ مَرَّةً بِالْهَمْزَةِ وَمَرَّةً بِهَلْ. We know there are two kinds of harf, there are harfan al-istifham. There are two harfs of istifham. There's hamza, and then there's hal. These are the two harfs of istifham. So sometimes he uses hamza and sometimes he uses hal, right? So what is the difference? To most of us, it's the same, it's a question. But hamza is used in a particular context and hal is used in a particular context. Actually, maybe you can finish the up to here so that we compare these two. Fawzia?
Okay. Yes. ومرة يقول قل فأنبئكم بشر من ذلكم. Say, shall I inform you worse than that?
Exactly.
Yes.
We can stop there.
Oh,
yeah, let's compare these two ayat first because they're similar. And that is what he's trying to compare. So I'm just going to make it slightly smaller so that we can fit both of this together in the same page. Okay. So he's saying, فَهُوَ so he's basically saying, he's comparing the usage of hal and hamza. So you can see in the ayah of Surah Al-Ma'idah, he says, قُلْ هَلْ أُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِشَرٍّ مِّن ذَلِكَ. And then in Surah Al-Hajj, he says, قُلْ أَفَأُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِشَرٍّ مِّن ذَلِكَ. Yeah, مِن ذَلِكُمْ. So that's a different thing. But you can see that the phrase is almost 100% similar. The only difference is here we used hal, here we used a. Or rather, Allah used hal here, and here he used hamza. So what is the difference? The phrase is almost the same. What Dr. Fadil is saying is that this context in Surah Al-Ma'idah necessitated the use of hal, and the context in Surah Al-Hajj necessitated the use of hamza. That is what he's trying to say. All right? So that's the comparison between those 2 ayat. Any questions? I'm going to try and break down the grammar now. Oops, not so small.
Can you translate this? فهو قد يستفهم مرة بالهمزة means he used Hamza, number of times Hamza and number of times with hal.
Yeah. Marratan, yeah. So he
Allah used or
sometimes
the Quran used, either way, right?
Yeah, Allah used or the Quran used. Yeah. Or questions even. You can say that the Quran questions sometimes with Hamza and sometimes with hal. So sometimes he says this and sometimes he says this. Yeah.
Okay.
Any ideas what's context then? Oh no, I haven't looked at the context, to be honest. I didn't have the time to go into details of this. Yeah. But probably maybe, I don't know if he has a chapter on this, maybe he discusses the main details. We'll see, inshallah. So huwa
But
is
the
our
point is
mubtada. Yeah,
the point is that each word is used exactly where it should be. This is
exactly.
his point.
That is his point, yes. That is his point. Whether it's istifham, whether it's tawkid, whether it's taqdeem and ta'khir, he will mention later. Whatever style, whatever kind of expression there is in the Quran, the bottom line is that every single style is used precisely according to the context, where it is needed. That is the whole point he's making with all these examples. Okay? So he says, so huwa,
You know,
uh-huh.
yes, sorry, please complete it. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Now I was just going to do the grammar, so you can ask.
Okay. So, because I recall, I don't know whether I'm correctly recalling it or not. We really did Amsad when there is a Hamza coming in. You don't use Hamza istifham, rather you switch to Hal. So, and in the next ayah, you see there's a Fa coming here. So we don't have that Hamza restriction. So the Hamza istifham is used over there. Is that the reason? You know, there's a Fa here in between.
Yeah, that's why, because there's a Hamza. But you can say
Mm.
unabbi'ukum, you can say. It's no problem.
No, like unabbiukum is it gives you a jerk. So in EMSA they suggested it's better to use hal over there. But you see, we don't have this jerk here in the next ayah because there is a fa here. So you can say a fa.
Yeah, but I'm saying that it is also permissible to say unabbi'ukum.
Okay.
Yeah, you can say
Hmm.
there are certain rules with that, but I'm not
Hmm.
so I don't remember exactly because it's been a while since I read
Hmm.
about how the Hamzatul Istifham and then the followed by another Hamza, because of course, yeah, when two Hamzas come together like this, it is hated. They don't like it much, but there are some rulings to it and there are some exceptions as always,
Yeah, and
but
I
I don't
believe
remember.
those rules are in Balagha study. I even
Yeah.
don't remember.
Yeah, there's some of them in Balagha studies also, because hal is used for yes or no question, and then is more open-ended and things like that. So discussion on Balagha also comes in. So that could be the reason why. Maybe the context here requires more open-ended questions, and here it's more of a yes or no question. I don't know. So that could be also it. Yeah. All right. So anyway, huwa is our mubtada here. قد is what we call حرف التحقيق. So it's a harf. We overlook it when it comes to grammar. We don't really pay much attention to it. And then يستفهم. So this is فعل مضارع. So that means now this begins our khabar portion, because we have a who in the beginning, which is our mubtada. So that becomes our khabar. يستفهم مرة. We talked about مرة. We said this is نائب مفعول مطلق. And then بالهمزة. This is our متعلق. ومرة, this واو, this مرة is connected to that مرة. And then بهال, this is another متعلق. Okay, so that whole thing, fragment, will be our khabar to huwa. I think it's pretty straightforward. There's not really much complication happening here, except for marratan being naibu maf'ul mutlaq. But other than that, It's just a فعل and a متعلق. And then this part is معطوف to that initial part. Right? And then you have again another مبتدا فهو مرة نائب مفعول مطلق. And then يقول, so فهو يقول مرة. So you can say this is our خبر في محل رفع, and it's a جملة فعلية. And then the whole جملة فعلية would be the خبر of هو, and inside that جملة فعلية you have يقول, which is our فعل. And then this آية is the مقول القول في محل نسب مفعول به, and of course it's an آية happening in there. All right. And then inside that ayah, of course, this is another قل. So this is our فعل, and then whatever comes after it will be the مفعول به. مقول القول مفعول به في محل نصب. So this part, هل أنبئكم, all the way to the end, it's our, what is it called? مفعول به. And then أنبئ, نبأ ينبئ.
I'm sorry.
Go
on. This قل هل أنبئكم, the Surah Al-Ma'idah, this is a مقول القول for this يقول?
Yes, for this one. Yeah. So the whole thing, the whole sentence, it's like, imagine there was an ism here. He says, come. He says, come. The question becomes, what does he say? Come. So if I replace this come with an entire long sentence, it doesn't change the fact that this is still the مقول القول في محل نسب of قال. Right? I don't know what's happening. Yeah, so it's the same thing. Got it?
Okay.
Yeah. So again, the same thing inside the ayah. You have a قل, which means now whatever comes after it is going to be again the مقول القول of this قل. Yeah. Say what? That whole sentence becomes like that. So normally whatever you have يقول, قال, قل, whatever comes after it is going to be في محل نسب مقول القول. It doesn't matter what it is. Whatever, if it's جملة اسمية, جملة فعلية, it doesn't matter what comes after it. Whatever comes after it في محل نسب مقول القول مفعول به. Right? And then you have a similar structure here again. ومرة يقول. So this ومرة, this واو is معطوف to this مرة. So this sentence is continuing. So he says, sometimes he says, or at one time he says this, and at one time he says this. That's how the sentence looks like. Yeah, it's because the ayahs are coming in between, and then it looks a bit complicated, but just look at it as at one time he says this, and at one time he says this. And then this is a whole sentence, and the other this is a whole sentence. So that's what's happening there. And of course, again, نائب مفعول مطلق, يقول فعل. يقول is a فعل, and then this ayah is a مقول القول of يقول. Right? And then of course قل is our فعل أمر. Then this sentence is مقول القول مفعول به. حرف الاستفهام. And then of course fa comes in as a separator or whatever. أنبئكم, نبأ ينبئ, أنبئ, أنا أنبئ. So that is our فعل. كم is our فاعل, our مفعول به, sorry, attached pronoun. بشر متعلق number 1. من ذلكم متعلق number 2. Of course, this بشر in here. Yes, go on.
My reference will be what, ma'am? I mean, like يقول is a فاعل. So my reference is مفعول نائب مفعول مطلق. Something like this.
Yeah. Yes, it is نائب مفعول مطلق. Always, whenever you see مرة, there are these words that whenever you just see them, your mind كثيرا, قليلا, مرة, what else? علاوة, إضافة, all these words, whenever you see them, just know either نائب مفعول مطلق directly, your mind goes there directly. Yeah. Huwa is he, not it, right? It could be he, it could be it. So it referring to the Quran or he referring to Allah. Yeah. So because he's discussing about the Quran, he's saying the Quran did this, the Quran did this. So you can also say that it referring back to the Quran. But of course, it is the speech of Allah. Allah is the one who is generating the speech, is the one who's speaking. So ultimately, it is his speech as well. So Allah is the one who said this speech. Yeah. Allah is the author of the Quran. So he's ultimately the one who also did this, in other words. Yeah. Okay, great. All right. So let's see if we can be able to compare this to ma and mother. So Saima, the other one, maybe you can read this part.
ومرة بما ومرة بماذا والقصة واحدة فيقول مرة في إبراهيم عليه السلام إذ قال لأبيه وقومه ما تعبدون سورة الشعراء ويقول مرة أخرى إذ قال لأبيه وقومه ماذا تعبدون الصفات وغير ذلك وغيره.
Exactly. So again, he's just comparing. So he mentioned the same applies for the topic of istifham, the topic of questioning. Whether you're comparing between hal and hamza, like we just did, or we're comparing ma and mada. So for example, if you look at the ayah in Surah Shu'ara, إِذْ قَالَ لِأَبِيهِ وَقَوْمِهِ مَا تَعْبُدُونَ. And then you look at Surah Safat, إِذْ قَالَ لِأَبِيهِ وَقَوْمِهِ مَاذَا تعبدون. It's the same fragment. وَالْقِصَّةُ واحدة. It's the same thing. The same story, the same expression, everything else other than these two words is the same, right? So what is the difference then? Like why ma here and why mother here? So Dr. Fadil is saying ma was used in Shu'ara for a reason because the context needed it, necessitated it. And here ماذا was used for a reason because it fits and it's suitable for the context in As-Safat. That's basically what he's saying. وغير ذلك وغيره, and so on and so forth. Yani in other words, and other examples like this. There's so many other examples like this. This is what happens. You have this a similar expression, but only one thing that is different between them. And why would that happen? Because of the context. All right. Is that part understood? What he's saying? I think it's not so difficult once you understand what he's trying to say, then everything just becomes easier to understand.
Ma'am, why they're not, like, why he's not explaining the reason? I really want to know.
We all want to know, but I think also it's because this is chapter 1, right? So
That might be too much.
yeah, maybe he has a chapter just dedicated to istifham. I don't know. I will check in his book. Because remember, this again, he's just introducing the whole concept. So chapter 1 is talking about Quranic styles. That will be chapter 1, which is now التعبير القرآن. Yeah, التعبير القرآني, the Quranic expression. So like as a whole. And then chapter 2, he talks about the construction, word construction in the Quran. And then chapter 3, he talks about now taqdeem and ta'khir, bringing forth and delaying. And then he talks about dhikr and hadaf, mentioning something or omitting the mention of something, hiding something. Like sometimes we say the khabar is mahduf. Why is it mahduf? Or sometimes something is mentioned whereas it needed to be mahduf. So we have something like that. Then we have tawqid fil Quran. That's another chapter that he talks about. And he introduced tawqid. And then we have at-tashabuh wal-ikhtilaf. So similarities and differences. And I think that's probably where he talks about this, where you have similar phrases and then you have something different. And I think that's probably where he might go into details about this. I'm not so sure. I haven't read the entire book, but that's a chapter there. And so many other things that he made, and he has other different chapters as well. And he talks about specific stories also, like he goes into details about the story of Adam, and Musa alayhi salam. Yeah. So it's a big book and there's a lot of juicy details in it. So maybe, yeah, we can be patient. I don't know how far we'll get.
Yeah, and Sister Elam, we also read that maza, it is usually associated with a verb, and ma, it comes with an ism. So probably there is some ism that has been mahzuf over here. It's left out. And in the second ayah, there is no concept of ism. It is a direct question. What do you worship? And in the previous one, there is some ism that is probably left out. Maybe there is some referral of something they're actually doing. Some
Yeah,
noun.
so yeah, that could be it. I haven't read anything like that. It could be. I'm not so sure. But however, ماذا, yes, you're right. ماذا is supposed to be used with a fi'al 99% of the time. And you cannot use it with an ism. But ma can be used with a fi'al as well. So that's some of the exceptions that are there. So you can use ma with even though ma is 99% most of the time used with an ism, but ma can also come with a fi'al as well.
Okay, so if you use ma directly with the fi'l, then do we consider this construction as a normal construction, or do we consider as a noun which has been left out and we take this noun as a hidden one?
I am not so sure exactly the workings behind that. That could be it, or it could just be something else. I have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe I will try and read ahead and see if he mentions this example in the topic and let you guys know. Yeah.
Jazakallah khair.
Yeah, cool. Any other questions there?
At least we got homework now. So everybody dig into the ayat.
Yes, go and dig and find out why ma here and why mother here. And if ma comes with a fi'il, what does that mean? Things like that. Yeah. But again, so the grammatical breakdown, it's pretty much straightforward again. So مرة, we've discussed مرة so many times. نائب مفعول مطلق. مرة يستفهم بما. So at one time, he questions with using ma. So you can even translate this ba as ba. It's called ba of like a tool. Like when I say I opened the door بمفتاح, that means I used a key to open the door. فتحت الباب بمفتاح. So the tool that I used was a key, a key. So here in this case, we can also say using. So he questions using ma, and at another time or at one other time he questions using ماذا. والقصة واحدة, and the story is the same. Yeah, so this القصة مبتدأ, واحدة خبر. This is like a basic جملة اسمية here happening. Like rarely do we get sentences like this anymore. So when you get this, it's exciting to see the basics. القصة واحدة. الولد صغير. البنت صغيرة. Beautiful, easy peasy lemon squeezy. We don't get to experience that anymore. But yeah, so you can see the basics there being applied. فيقول مرة, again يقول فعل. So again, the fa'il is the inside pronoun هو, which refers to either it, the Quran, or Allah. مرة, we've talked about مرة. في إبراهيم عليه السلام. So متعلق, جار مجرور, and then عليه السلام. Here, describing Ibrahim, or سلام عليه, basically مبتدا and جار مجرور متعلق. Okay, that's what's happening there. And this whole phrase, again, what is it? مقول القول of يقول. يقول this is what he says. All right. إذ قال لأبيه وقومه, when he said to his father and his people, ما تعبدون, what do you worship? And ويقول مرة, again فعل مرة, we've discussed. Here the only difference is مرة أخرى. This is موصوف صفة. So أخرى is describing مرة, and I think we mentioned that before. It is أخرى, the feminine version of مرة, of آخر, because مرة is feminine. and then this again becomes the مقول القول of يقول, the whole ayah. So مقول القول في محل نسب مفعول به وغير ذلك وغيره, and other than that and other than that. But we said we don't say that, we say and so on and so forth. All right, so غير مبتدأ ذلك خبر وحرف عطف غيره معطوف, and then of course غيره is مضاف مضاف إليه. All right, any questions, clarifications? I think this section wasn't as bad. It was pretty, because it's just marratan this, marratan that, marratan this, marratan that. So it was pretty straightforward. Alhamdulillah. But I think we understand the whole idea. So we have maybe 4 more pages to finish this chapter. Alhamdulillah. Not bad, guys. Not bad, because this ends at chapter 22. Yeah. Right? I think so. Yeah, because this one goes to the construction of words. The next chapter is about the construction of words. So yeah, 4 pages, which inshallah we might finish next week or not. It doesn't really matter. But next week we will do a reading of what we've done so far also, so that you can see if you're understanding what is being said. All right, great. I think that's a good place to stop, because here he goes on to another comparison. And basically he said that that concept applies to istifham, and also the same concept applies to taqdeem and ta'khir. You know, bringing something forward and delaying it, and not and mentioning it earlier or mentioning it later. Right. Okay, yeah, that's a good place to stop. All right. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاك الله أستاذ إلهام.
السلام.
وإياكم. جزاكم الله خير.